A black girl walked quietly into Lincoln Heights High School. Her name was Zariah Carter, and she intended to finish her senior year unnoticed, blending into the crowded hallways. But before she could even memorize her locker combination, Ashley Caldwell, a white girl with porcelain skin and an icy heart, singled her out as the perfect target. It started with mocking laughter, then hushed whispers, followed by deliberate acts of humiliation in front of everyone. As Ashley smiled smugly, convinced she was about to deliver the final blow, the entire school gathered, phones out, ready to capture the moment they thought Zariah would break. But what no one realized was that Zariah Carter wasn't just another quiet new girl from Atlanta. They had unknowingly picked a fight with a trained fighter, someone who had spent years mastering discipline and self-control under the rigorous training of her military-trained uncle. And today, Zariah was about to show them exactly what that meant. You won't want to miss this powerful story. But before we begin, I have a question for you. Have you ever witnessed or experienced an abuse of power? If you were in Zariah's position, how would you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy compelling stories like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more. And let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Now, let's dive in. The yellow school bus pulled up in front of Westbridge High, its doors hissing open as students poured out in a noisy rush. Among them was a lone figure who moved with quiet precision, her grip tightening on the straps of her backpack. Zariah Cole stepped off the bus, her dark brown eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. She had been here before, different schools, different cities, always the new girl. The routine was the same. Keep her head down, stay quiet, and get through the year without any trouble. Westbridge High was no different. Red brick walls towered over her, the windows dull and gray, reflecting the chaos of students hurrying inside. She adjusted her hoodie, pulling it slightly over her braided hair, hoping to remain unnoticed. But she knew better. As she walked through the crowded hallways, conversations momentarily paused, heads subtly turning her way. It wasn't just because she was new. It was because she was different. In a school where most of the students were white, Zariah stood out in ways that made some people curious and others uncomfortable. She ignored the whispers, keeping her eyes fixed ahead. The last thing she needed was attention. She had learned that the best way to survive was to blend in, to become invisible. But fate had other plans. Ashley Carter, the self-proclaimed queen of Westbridge High, strutted down the hall with her usual entourage, her blonde ponytail swaying as she walked, her designer boots clicking against the polished floor. She was flanked by her two best friends, Olivia and Brittany, who giggled at every sarcastic remark Ashley made. Ashley prided herself on knowing everything about everyone in the school, but she had never seen Zariah before. And that made the new girl an instant target. "Who's that?" Ashley asked, nudging Olivia. Olivia shrugged. "No idea. Must be new." Ashley smirked. Well, fresh meat." She walked straight towards Zariah, blocking her path. "Hey, new girl. You lost?" Zariah looked up, her expression unreadable. She had seen girls like Ashley before. Different faces, same attitude. "No," she said simply, moving to step around her. Ashley sidestepped, cutting her off again. "Wow, rude much? Didn't your parents teach you manners?" Brittany snickered. Olivia pretended to be shocked. Zariah exhaled slowly, reminding herself of her father's words, "Discipline first. Always discipline." "I don't want any trouble," she said, her tone calm but firm. Ashley tilted her head. "Who said anything about trouble? We just want to welcome you properly." Zariah could hear the laughter from the surrounding students. They were waiting, watching, hoping for entertainment. Ashley's smirk widened. "Oh, come on. We're all friends here." Before Zariah could react, Ashley accidentally knocked the books from her hands. The textbooks hit the floor with a loud thud. The crowd erupted into muffled laughter. Zariah clenched her jaw, her fingers curling into fists at her sides. She had spent years controlling her temper, learning patience, mastering the art of restraint. She wasn't about to let someone like Ashley break her composure on the first day. She bent down to pick up her books, her mind already calculating escape routes, weighing options. She could fight. She could end this right now. But she wasn't here to fight. Not yet. Ashley leaned down, pretending to help, only to whisper mockingly, "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?" Zariah met her eyes, her gaze so intense that for a brief second, Ashley hesitated. There was something there, something dangerous lurking beneath the surface. But before she could process it, Zariah had gathered her books and walked away without another word. The crowd dispersed, some disappointed, others intrigued. Ashley, however, wasn't done. As Zariah made her way to her locker, she overheard the whispers. She didn't even fight back. "Guess she's just another weak transfer student." Ashley and her friends were laughing. They thought they had won. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Zariah Cole wasn't just some quiet new girl. She was a fighter. A trained fighter. And if Ashley kept pushing, she was going to find out the hard way. Zariah Cole had spent years perfecting the art of control. Her father, a former professional fighter, had taught her discipline before he ever taught her how to throw a punch. The best fighters don't fight because they want to, he always said. They fight because they have to. And so, for the first week at Westbridge High, Zariah stuck to the shadows, avoiding conflict at all costs. But Ashley Carter wasn't the type to leave things alone. It started with minor things, casual shoulder bumps in the hallway, snickers when she passed by, and accidental spills that always seemed to happen near her locker. Zariah ignored it all. She kept her focus on her classes, keeping her head down, hoping they would get bored and move on. They didn't. By Friday, Ashley had grown frustrated. The new girl wasn't reacting the way she wanted. It wasn't fun if her victim didn't fight back. She needed something bigger, something that would guarantee a response. So, during lunch, Ashley hatched a plan. Zariah sat alone at a corner table, eating quietly and scrolling through her phone when a sudden crash made her freeze. A tray of food had landed right on her lap, mashed potatoes, gravy, and milk dripping onto her jeans. Laughter erupted around her. Zariah took a slow breath. She wiped the food off her lap with the last bit of patience she had left. Ashley sauntered up, feigning innocence. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. It just slipped." Her voice dripped with fake concern as Olivia and Brittany stifled their giggles behind her. Zariah didn't move. She simply stared at Ashley, her brown eyes locked onto her tormentor's face. A strange silence fell over the cafeteria. The kind that made people uneasy. Ashley shifted, suddenly uncomfortable. She expected anger, embarrassment, anything but this quiet, unwavering gaze. "Are you just gonna sit there?" Ashley pressed. "Come on, it's just a joke. Relax." Still, Zariah said nothing. But something had changed. The air felt heavier, charged with an unspoken tension. A few students who had been laughing now glanced at each other, uncertain. Brittany nudged Ashley. "Maybe we should just." But Ashley wasn't finished. She wasn't about to let the new girl make her feel uneasy. She reached for Zariah's backpack, intending to dump it on the floor. "Let's make sure you get the full welcome exp." Her hand never made it. In a blur of movement, Zariah's fingers wrapped around Ashley's wrist with precise control. Not tight enough to hurt, just enough to stop her in her tracks. Ashley's eyes widened as she realized she couldn't move. "What the hell?" Zariah finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You've made your point." Ashley tried to yank her hand away, but Zariah's grip held steady. Not aggressive, just unyielding. A few students started whispering, others watching with interest. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Ashley was the queen of the school. She was the one in control. But in that moment, as she stared into Zariah's eyes, she felt something she had never felt before. Doubt. With one final squeeze, just enough to let Ashley know this was a warning, Zariah released her. Ashley stumbled back, rubbing her wrist as if it had been burned. Brittany rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" Ashley's face turned red. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. She had lost control of the situation, and worse, she had felt weak in front of everyone. Zariah stood, grabbing her backpack and sliding it over her shoulder. Without another word, she walked past Ashley and her clique, the crowd parting as she moved. The cafeteria remained unusually quiet as she left, students exchanging wide-eyed glances. Ashley clenched her fists. This wasn't over. Zariah had won this round. But the game had just begun. By Monday morning, the tension in Westbridge High was thick enough to cut with a knife. Word of Zariah's silent standoff with Ashley Carter had spread like wildfire. People whispered in the hallways, eyes darting toward her whenever she walked past. Some admired her courage, others were just waiting for the inevitable fallout. Zariah didn't care about any of it. She had seen enough schools and enough bullies to know that Ashley wouldn't let it go. The only question was when and where the next strike would come. She had a feeling it would be soon. And she was right. Ashley wasn't just angry, she was humiliated. She spent the entire weekend thinking about how Zariah had made her look weak in front of everyone. That was unacceptable. She needed to put the new girl in her place, permanently. But she couldn't do it in broad daylight. No, this needed to be something big. Something unforgettable. Which is why, at lunchtime, Ashley put her plan into motion. Zariah had just finished eating when Olivia, one of Ashley's closest minions, approached her table with an unusually friendly smile. "Hey, Zariah." Zariah looked up, immediately suspicious. Olivia had never spoken to her without some sort of snide remark. "What do you want?" Olivia giggled, acting as if they were old friends. "Look, I know things got a little weird last week. Ashley feels bad about it." Zariah raised an eyebrow. Ashley? Feels bad? I know, right? Olivia laughed nervously. She wants to start over. No drama. She asked me to invite you to the gym after school so you two can talk it out. No tricks, I promise. Zariah leaned back in her chair, studying Olivia's face. She was a terrible liar. But she had to admit, this was a smart move. If she refused, it would look like she was scared. If she went, she was walking straight into whatever Ashley had planned. Either way, she was being baited. Zariah exhaled slowly. Fine. After school. Olivia beamed. Great. See you there. As soon as Olivia left, Zariah shook her head. She had no intention of walking into this blind. If Ashley wanted to play games, she would play along. But on her terms. After school, Zariah made her way to the gym. She wasn't nervous. She had dealt with people like Ashley before, people who thought power came from fear. But power didn't come from making others small. It came from knowing exactly who you were. She stepped inside. The gym was empty except for Ashley, Olivia, Brittany, and two guys she didn't recognize. Football players, judging by their jerseys and broad shoulders. Zariah closed the door behind her. I'm here. Let's talk. Ashley smirked, arms crossed. Oh, I don't think we have much to talk about. The two guys stepped forward, cracking their knuckles. Zariah's jaw tightened. So that was the plan. Intimidation. Possibly worse. Ashley leaned against the bleachers. See, Zariah, you made me look weak. That's a problem. So, I figured we should even things out. Zariah didn't flinch. You brought back up. That's cute. Ashley's eyes flashed with irritation. Oh, don't worry. They won't hurt you. Much. The taller of the two guys stepped forward. You should have just kept your head down, new girl. Zariah exhaled, rolling her shoulders. You don't want to do this. Oh, I think we do. The first guy lunged. Zariah sidestepped effortlessly, gripping his arm and twisting it behind his back in one fluid motion. He let out a sharp yelp as she shoved him forward, sending him stumbling. Before he could recover, she pivoted and slammed her heel into his knee, sending him crumpling to the ground. The second guy hesitated for half a second before charging at her. Big mistake. Zariah ducked low, sweeping his legs out from under him. He hit the floor with a dull thud, groaning as he clutched his ribs. Ashley's smug expression vanished. Brittany's hand shot over her mouth in shock. Zariah stood tall, her eyes locked onto Ashley's. That was your big plan? She shook her head. Pathetic. Ashley swallowed hard. For the first time in her life, she had no words. Zariah picked up her backpack and walked to the door, pausing only once. She turned her head slightly, just enough to meet Ashley's wide-eyed stare. Next time, pick on someone who can't fight back. Then she walked out, leaving Ashley standing there, frozen in disbelief. The game had just changed. The next morning, Westbridge High was buzzing with whispers. Somehow, the fight in the gym had already become legendary. Stories were spreading like wildfire, some exaggerated, some not. I heard she took down two guys in 5 seconds. No, she broke one's arm and knocked the other out cold. Ashley Carter was so scared, she almost cried. Zariah heard the rumors but ignored them. She wasn't interested in being a school celebrity. She just wanted to be left alone. Unfortunately, Ashley wasn't someone who took humiliation lightly. She was furious, but more than that, she was scared. Zariah had shattered the illusion of control she had over the school. If people started thinking they could stand up to her and win, her reign would be over. And that couldn't happen. Ashley sat with Olivia and Brittany at lunch, barely touching her food. We need to shut this down. Olivia frowned. What do you mean? She already embarrassed you once. What if she does it again? Ashley's eyes darkened. That's why we don't go after her directly. Brittany raised an eyebrow. So what's the plan? Ashley smirked. We find her weakness. Zariah, oblivious to Ashley's scheming, was eating her lunch alone when someone dropped into the seat across from her. She looked up to see Jaden, the captain of the boys' basketball team. He flashed a smile. Mind if I sit here? She shrugged. Suit yourself. Jaden had been watching Zariah since the day she arrived. He liked how she carried herself, calm, confident, unbothered. And after what she did to those football players, his curiosity had only grown. So, I gotta ask, where'd you learn to fight like that? Zariah smirked slightly. Let's just say I've had practice. Jaden chuckled. Well, remind me never to get on your bad side. She rolled her eyes. Relax, I don't just go around fighting people. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Ashley isn't gonna let this go. You know that, right? Zariah met his gaze. I know. Jaden hesitated before speaking again. Look, I don't usually get involved in drama, but be careful. Ashley plays dirty. She nodded. Thanks for the warning. Ashley's plan was already in motion. If she couldn't beat Zariah physically, she would destroy her reputation. She had spent years controlling the social hierarchy of Westbridge High, and she knew exactly how to turn the tide against someone. She started small, spreading rumors that Zariah had only won because the guys had gone easy on her. That she was some violent delinquent who had been expelled from her last school. That she wasn't as tough as she pretended to be. Zariah didn't care. She had dealt with rumors before. But then, Ashley upped the stakes. The next day, Zariah was called to the principal's office. She walked in to find Principal Howard sitting behind his desk, looking stern. Across from him sat two of the football players she had taken down, both with fake-looking bruises. Ashley was there too, looking smug. Principal Howard gestured for Zariah to sit. Miss Carter and these young men have accused you of assault. Zariah's eyes narrowed. That's not what happened. Ashley put on her best innocent act. Sir, we were just trying to talk to her. She snapped and attacked them for no reason. The taller football player nodded. She's dangerous. Principal Howard steepled his fingers. Zariah, do you have anything to say for yourself? Zariah kept her expression calm. I defended myself. They were trying to intimidate me. Ashley gasped dramatically. That's a lie. Principal Howard sighed. The school has a zero-tolerance policy for violence. I'll need to investigate this. Zariah clenched her jaw. This was exactly the kind of setup she had been expecting. She looked Ashley dead in the eye. Do what you have to do. The truth will come out. Ashley's smile faltered for just a second. She wasn't scared yet. But she should be. Zariah knew things wouldn't end with Ashley's public humiliation, but she didn't expect the next move to come so soon. As she walked through the halls the next morning, the usual stares followed, but there was something different in the air, something heavier. A strange silence seemed to settle whenever she passed by groups of students. Even the teachers looked at her with subtle curiosity. She stopped by her locker, twisting the dial on her combination lock, when she heard a soft chuckle behind her. Turning slightly, she saw Ashley leaning against the wall with her arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. Olivia and Brittany flanked her, as usual. You know, Ashley began, tapping her nails against her phone, I have to admit, you're tougher than I thought. But you made a mistake. Zariah shut her locker and faced her. And what mistake was that? Ashley's smirk widened. You think fights happen in the open? In school gyms? She laughed mockingly. That's not how this works. That's not how I work. Zariah kept her expression unreadable. Then how do you work? Ashley stepped closer, lowering her voice. I don't fight. I destroy. And I don't even have to lift a finger. Before Zariah could reply, Ashley walked away, her two lackeys following closely behind. The warning lingered in the air like a storm cloud, but Zariah wasn't afraid, she was curious. Ashley had already tried intimidation, and that had failed. So, what was her next move? She got her answer by lunchtime. When Zariah entered the cafeteria, conversations paused for a split second before resuming. That alone put her on high alert. She grabbed a tray, walking toward an empty table, when she caught a glimpse of a few students whispering and glancing her way. Then she heard the first voice. She's insane. She's violent. That's why she got kicked out of her last school. She put a kid in the hospital. Zariah's grip tightened on her tray. Lies. The rumors were spreading fast. She calmly sat down, focusing on eating. This was what Ashley meant, she wasn't going to attack physically. She was going to turn everyone against her. It didn't take long for the plan to start working. The few classmates who had been friendly to Zariah before now kept their distance. She saw one girl, Mia, about to sit next to her before another student whispered something, causing Mia to hesitate before walking away. Ashley strolled past with Olivia and Brittany, pretending not to notice Zariah's isolation. But her satisfied smile gave her away. Zariah wasn't worried about losing fake friendships, but she knew how rumors worked. If she let this slide, teachers might start believing the lies too. She had to think. And then, just as she was about to stand up, an unexpected voice broke through the tension. Yo, this seat taken? Zariah looked up to see Malik, one of the best athletes in school, grinning down at her. He wasn't just popular, he was well respected. And judging by the way the room tensed at his approach, everyone knew that too. No, she said cautiously. Go ahead. Malik plopped down, grabbing a fry off her tray like they were old friends. Heard you kick some dudes' asses. Zariah raised an eyebrow. I defended myself. He smirked. That's what I like to hear. Ashley's face twisted in irritation. This wasn't part of her plan. Zariah wasn't supposed to gain allies. Zariah noticed Ashley's clenched fists and decided to make things worse for her. She turned to Malik, smirking. You know, for someone who's supposed to be so powerful, Ashley sure does cry a lot when things don't go her way. The cafeteria erupted into laughter. Ashley's face turned red. She had lost control of the narrative. Again. But Zariah knew one thing for sure, this wasn't over. Ashley's anger simmered beneath the surface as she stormed out of the cafeteria. Zariah had turned the tables on her again, and this time, in front of the entire school. The whispers, the laughter, it all burned her pride like acid. But this wasn't over. Not even close. Brittany and Olivia hurried after her, struggling to keep up with Ashley's determined pace. Ash, come on, we'll figure something out, Olivia said. Yeah, we just need to. Ashley whirled around, her eyes blazing. Shut up. Both of you. This isn't about figuring anything out. This is about ending her. Olivia and Brittany exchanged nervous glances. Ashley was always ruthless, but this was something else. Ashley took a deep breath, forcing a smile. We're going to set a trap. If Zariah likes fighting so much, we'll give her one. But on our terms. The plan was simple. After school, Malik found Zariah at her locker. You good? He asked. Zariah smirked. Always. He chuckled. Listen, be careful. Ashley's the type that doesn't take losses well. Not worried. I figured. He leaned against the lockers. But still. I heard something. Zariah glanced at him. Heard what? Some guys, older guys. They're looking for you. Some friends of Ashley's. Word is, they want to catch you outside of school. Zariah's expression didn't change, but inside, she was analyzing. This wasn't surprising. Ashley knew she couldn't win alone, so she was calling for backup. Appreciate the warning, Malik, Zariah said. But I can handle it. Malik shook his head with a grin. Man, you really don't back down, huh? Zariah just shrugged. Later that evening, as Zariah walked home, she felt it, the shift in the air, the quiet before a storm. She turned a corner and stopped. Ahead of her, four guys leaned against a fence, all older, all with the unmistakable confidence of people who'd been in trouble before. Ashley stood off to the side, arms crossed, smirking. Evening, Zariah, Ashley said sweetly. We need to have a chat. Zariah exhaled slowly. A chat, huh? That why you brought extras? One of the guys, a tall one with a scar down his cheek, cracked his knuckles. See, Ash tells us you like fighting. But we don't think you're all that. We figured we'd test that out. Zariah nodded, rolling her shoulders. All right, let's test it. Ashley's smirk faltered. Wait, what? She expected Zariah to run. To beg. To be scared. Instead, Zariah stepped forward, eyes sharp, body relaxed, but ready. The guy with the scar swung first. A heavy, wild punch meant to intimidate. But Zariah was faster. She ducked, shifted, and slammed an elbow into his ribs before twisting and driving a knee into his stomach. He gasped, stumbling back. The second guy lunged, but she sidestepped, grabbing his wrist and twisting it sharply. He yelped as she swept his legs, sending him crashing onto the pavement. The third one hesitated. That was his mistake. Zariah moved first, striking fast, a punch to the gut, a kick to the knee, and an open palm strike to his chest that sent him staggering. The fourth guy took one look at his fallen friends and backed away. Hell no, I ain't doing this. Ashley was frozen, eyes wide, her plan crumbling before her. Zariah dusted off her hands and looked at Ashley. That all you got? Ashley's face twisted with rage and humiliation, but she said nothing. She turned on her heel and stormed off, her failed reinforcements groaning on the ground. Zariah exhaled and walked away. She knew this wasn't over. But she was ready for whatever came next. Ashley didn't show up at school the next day. Or the day after. Rumors swirled, some said she was too embarrassed, others said she was planning something bigger. Zariah kept her guard up. She knew Ashley wasn't the type to accept defeat. On Friday, Malik caught up with Zariah by the lockers. You hear? Ashley's throwing some big party tonight. Word is, she's using it as a setup. Zariah smirked. Of course, she is. I don't like it. Might be worse than last time. Zariah nodded. She wasn't scared, but she wasn't reckless either. If Ashley had something planned, she'd be ready. That night, the party was in full swing when Zariah arrived. Loud music, flashing lights, and dozens of students filled Ashley's massive backyard. People turned when they saw Zariah, whispering. They knew why she was there. Ashley stood on the patio, dressed to impress, but her eyes were cold. Next to her stood a tall, muscular guy, her older brother, Logan. A well-known troublemaker with a record to prove it. Well, Ashley said, sipping her drink. Look who finally showed up. Zariah folded her arms. Let's skip the small talk. What's your plan this time? Ashley smirked. I figured you'd show up, so I made sure you had a proper welcome. Logan stepped forward. So you're the girl that humiliated my sister. She humiliated herself, Zariah corrected. Logan cracked his knuckles. Let's take this somewhere private. Zariah wasn't stupid. She knew what that meant. But she also wasn't afraid. Fine. Let's go. A small crowd followed as they moved toward the empty lot behind the house. The moment they stepped into the open space, Logan swung at her without warning. Zariah ducked, barely missing the punch. He was strong, stronger than the others, but strength wasn't everything. She shifted, aiming for his ribs, but he caught her wrist and twisted. Pain shot through her arm, but she didn't panic. Instead, she used his momentum against him, pivoting and breaking free with a sharp elbow to his side. Logan grunted, stepping back. Not bad. He lunged again, but this time, Zariah was ready. She dodged, then slammed her heel into the back of his knee. He stumbled, and she followed up with a palm strike to his jaw. He staggered, dazed. Ashley's face twisted with rage. Do something, Logan. Logan growled and charged again, but Zariah sidestepped, grabbed his shirt, and flipped him over her shoulder. He hit the ground hard, groaning. Silence filled the lot. No one had ever taken down Logan before. Zariah exhaled, dusting off her hands. We done here? Ashley's face turned red with fury. This isn't over. Zariah stepped closer, her voice low but firm. Yes, it is. Ashley clenched her fists but said nothing. She had no backup left. Zariah turned to leave. The crowd parted, whispering in awe. That night, the legend of Zariah was sealed. Ashley's reign was over. And everyone knew, never mess with the wrong person.
I hope you enjoyed this story. If you haven't subscribed till now, please do. Click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share to friends for more.